And at first he's like, no, you can't go in there. I'm not going to let you. And then, of course, Picard, typical of Picard, manipulates Worf by being like, oh, I thought you had honor, but I guess not. What a loser you are. And then Worf gets angry, and he's like, oh, you always do this to me. And he's like, because it always works. And it's like, wow. Okay, I mean, he's just being like, a manipulative older guy who's just like, I know this will work, so I'll just totally use my knowledge of Klingon culture to get you to do what I want you to do. And then, so Worf is like, all right, I'll go. All right, you can go.
Poor Worf, and he never wins a fight.
No, they never let him win a fight. They always
never wins a fight.
Why another case of bad writing. They always have Worf never winning a fight, and every time he's like, we should go to battle stations, the captain's like, nah, let's not do that. Why do you always say no to your security chief when he's got your best interest at heart? Whatever. More bad writing for Worf. But he says that he'll let them go if he goes along with them. And he also says that Riker should have helped them and sent them in like with a real battleship. But so they bring Worf aboard, and Beverly lets Picard give the engage order. She says, one last time for old time's sakes, she lets him say engage to go into the Devron system. So now we're back to the past. The Enterprise has arrived at the Devron system. Troy and Picard have a conversation in his ready room where she's like, look, the crew is confused. They're worried. They don't really know what's going on. But, they're here to obey your orders as the captain. We do get a funny little scene here. I thought it was funny. Picard contacts Farpoint Station to tell Commander Riker that they're not going to pick him up just yet. And I remember watching this as a kid, not a kid, but a younger person thinking like, how are they going to do this? Because Riker looks totally different now. Like, are they going to have him shave off the beard? And of course they don't. They just repurpose some old footage of Picard talking to Riker with some new dialogue, telling him basically, hey, we're not going to pick you up. We'll come get you later. And then Troy tells Picard that in the past, her and Riker had a relationship, but that it's not going to interfere with their assignment, here on the Enterprise. And at the end of this scene, we get Picard goes to the replicator and he orders tea, Earl Grey, hot, and the replicator says that beverage has not yet been programmed into the system.
Replicator.
Into the replicator, yeah. So I thought that was cute that he had to program that beverage, his favorite, into the replicator system. Okay, so we jump to the present, and this is like, I don't really understand this choice for how they directed this scene, but like, Tomalak, who we've run into in this series many times, he's head of the Romulan war fleet, and he looks insane. Like, he's like leaning over the console, and he's like, so what are we gonna do, Picard? And it's like, who directed this moment? Like, why do they make him like this crazy, insane guy? Which is just funny too. I laughed when I saw this part.
I did too.
It's weird, right? It's like, why?
It's just the disorientation, isn't it, for Picard, that he's literally going through all these different time periods, and he's got to be on top of it all without thinking, without him coming across as being crazy.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. So basically, Picard proposes that each side sends one ship into the neutral zone to look at this anomaly, and Tomalak is like, does Starfleet approve this? And Picard's like, no. So he's like, I like this plan already. So that's their plan. They each will send a ship in to examine what's going on. We get a few quick jump scenes here where in the present they've arrived at they get to the anomaly. In the past, they arrive at the anomaly, and it's bigger there. And in the future, there's no anomaly. So, of course, Picard's like,
is that there's no anomaly.
That's the anomaly, that there's no anomaly. So now, of course, we're like, okay, what's going on that it's not in the future, but it's bigger in the past? We're getting like more breadcrumb clues here to what's happening. So the pasture is basically where they're not supposed to be, and the Klingons are starting to move in to intercept them. Data says that he can create an inverse tachyon pulse to search for this anomaly. So, but to do that and to search the whole system, it's going to take 14 hours. Beverly says we're going to stay here for 6, and then we're getting the heck out of Dodge. And Picard gets real pissy about it, and he's like, we got to stay here. Old man, angry.
He is such a grumpy old man, isn't he? He's also a grumpy old man.
And it's how inappropriate is it that he's yelling at her on the bridge of her own ship? Like, and she tells him as much. She takes him into her ready room and she's like, don't you ever do that again. Question my orders on the bridge of my ship. She's like, you wouldn't have tolerated it on the Enterprise and I won't tolerate it here. And he's like, all right, you're right.
No, it's good.
It's a good scene, yeah. So she leaves and then Q shows up in like crazy old man makeup with like and he's like, what you want?
Looking at Picard.
Pretty much, yeah. And he's like, what, you want your mummy? I don't know. And he gives Picard another clue here. He tells him everything you were and will become is still with you. So Picard realizes that his time shifting is the key to figuring this whole thing out. Back in the present, the anomaly is 200,000 kilometers in diameter, the power of 10 G-type stars. So it's pretty powerful. And Picard tells Data to do this reverse tachyon pulse that he did in the future. And so Geordi and Data are configuring the pulse. They basically start scanning, and Geordi gets this terrible headache. And he's like seeing all kinds of radiation and whatever, EM interference. And, Data calls for, sick bay to come right away. Now we get to the scene that we talked about a little bit before, but that Geordi is growing new eyes. His eyes are regenerating to be normal, functioning human eyes. Other people on the ship are saying they have old scars that are healing over. And we find out this is because this is all the sci-fi techno-babble that I love. This is a collision of time and anti-time. And it has caused a rupture in space and is throwing out temporal energy all throughout the system. People who are much smarter than me and who know about this stuff can probably tell you I'm sure anti-time is like a real theory that's out there.
I think all of their episodes are based on actual theories. I'm sure I've seen a program that references, and I suppose that's why NASA and everybody who works for these sort of space agencies absolutely love Star Trek, because it is based on sort of quantum theories, or sorry, I'm no scientist, but the theories that are in actual fact alleged.
Yeah, exactly. Like I wish I understood it better myself. This is probably as like this level of like Star Trek science is about as deep as I can get, because beyond that it's way above my head. But I kind of love the idea that this is like, the same idea of like matter and antimatter. If they collide, then there's a big problem. And that's what's happening because of this anti-time. People are old scars are healing over. People are regenerating things that were thought to be completely damaged, and now everything's different. In the past, the anomaly measures 400,000 kilometers, so it is definitely bigger in the past, which again, it doesn't make a ton of sense right now, but when you think about that it's a temporal thing, time travel can be, as Doctor Who says, timey-wimey. So Brooke knows all about that. And so back in the future, the Klingons have shown up. They are attacking the pasture. And of course, they're a medical ship. They're no match for the Klingons. They get pretty beat up, and Beverly is ready to surrender, but the Klingons keep attacking, so they don't really care. And then, of course, out of the blue, here comes the Enterprise, guns blazing, with Admiral Riker in command. They chase off the Klingons, and they beam the Pasteur's crew off the ship because there is a warp core breach in progress. And Riker's like, we gotta go. Picard begs him to stay, but they give him a hypo and they just basically put him to sleep. Like, just go to bed, old man. Like,
that really wound me up the first time I watched that. I was like, no.
Yeah, it is quite disturbing. I mean, they basically medicated him without his permission. I mean, that's pretty disturbing. I do think it's interesting to note that now the Federation has cloaking technology. And the only reason why, and I'm sure that you girls know this, but if anyone doesn't know why, but the reason why the Federation never had a cloaking device was because that was part of their treaty with the Romulans, that they promised to never develop cloaking technology, and that way it kept peace between the Federation and the Romulans, establishing that neutral zone. Of course, now that the Romulan Empire has been conquered, all bets are off, and so the Federation goes ahead and develops a cloaking device. And so now they can cloak as well. What else here? So back to the present, Geordi continues to have new eyes basically growing, but unfortunately, Alyssa loses her baby. And it's a pretty emotional scene. You know, she's there with her partner, and Dr. Crusher is like basically examining her, and she's like, you know, you're gonna feel some tenderness, and I'm really sorry. And you know, she tells Picard that basically all cellular structure is reverting to an earlier form, and that's what happened to the fetus, that it reverted back to an earlier form and could not sustain itself, unfortunately.
I don't know why I think I've seen that twice, but I probably haven't. It's probably just solely this episode, but for some reason, I don't know why that Genesis episode sticks out in my mind. I'm going to have to go back and rewatch all of TNG.
Oh, well, I just have to watch Star Trek. I mean, twist my arm, but okay, I'll do it.
Okay. Fine.
It's for science. So now we're in the observation lounge. Picard basically wants to try to collapse the anomaly. And he basically charges his crew with coming up with a plan to do that. Q then appears and warns him about messing with something that he knows nothing about. And we're like, okay, what does that mean? And then we go, I wrote, to the very far past, because Q takes Picard back in time to 3.5 billion years ago to basically the first formation of life on Earth.
Primordial goo, wasn't it?
Yes, the primordial slime that is mostly like amino acids. What is interesting is back in this far back, the anomaly is so huge, it has engulfed the entire quadrant. You can actually see it in the sky from Earth. Like, that's how big it is now. So it's enveloped the entire quadrant, and Q basically is telling Picard, this is the moment that like amino acids are going to come together and form a protein, which will then become the building blocks for life on Earth. But then nothing happens. And it's because the anomaly is interfering. It's doing what it did in the earlier scene. It's reverting everything back to a previous form. And so the proteins never form, life never starts, and Picard has now destroyed all of humanity. Which, of course, is which we will find out shortly, it's a complete paradox that he would destroy humanity in the future by altering something that happens in the past. It's a timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly paradox that doesn't make any sense.